Yeah. So the Republican Party is now getting renewed attention for extremism. I kind of think the whole, or armed insurrection, attempted overthrow of the government, kind of had a little something to do with it. The January 6th attack on the Capitol, of course. But we've also seen that this is being illustrated. It's not just the MAGA cult of Donald Trump and the cult of personality. It's now in the halls of government. But we'll talk more about that. But I saw this interesting story here on Washington Post. After a Capitol riot, desperate families turned to groups that, quote, deprogram extremists. Wow. So they talk about this woman who, her was afraid her brother might be at the U.S. Capitol. She contacted a nonprofit group called Parents for Peace that seeks to pull people back from extremism, hoping to, quote, save him after years of dismay at his hatred of Muslims and Mexicans, and now alarm at his anger over the presidential election. Dissecting her brother's life and their relationship in weekly sessions, she started to wonder whether she was a part of the problem. Geez, so already she's making it her fault. That's this stuff is dark, guys. The fact that I think Trump divided a lot of families, but when you see people reaching out to organizations like this, Parents for Peace, a 10-person operation of mostly volunteers, says calls to its national helpline have tripled since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, with a growing number of younger people being groomed in white supremacist ideology. After supporters of then-President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, the intervention groups have experienced a deluge of calls related to the attack as well as to conspiracy theories and QAnon. The range of extremism they've encountered has widened in the past year. Jeez. The federal government, I did a video about this. DHS released a warning about domestic extremism and how it's very much like we're in the red zone, the red tier of alert for that stuff right now. This organization, often staffed in part by the formerly radicalized, they're on the front lines of the fight against right-wing extremism, a growing threat that is in the spotlight, but which experts argue has long been neglected. Guys, if you don't know, the domestic terror threat for the far right has long been one of the most consistent ways to die in extremist violence in the United States. Anytime, more times than not, when there's a school shooting, there's some connection to right-wing extremism. The Columbine shooters did it committed their crimes on the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing, one of the largest by death count right-wing domestic terrorist, white supremacist domestic terror attacks in United States history. And they were reading the Turner Diaries. If you don't know about the Turner Diaries, it's a novel that basically waxes poetic about extermination, genocide, and killing race traitors, hanging race traitors with nooses in what they call the Day of the Rope. What we saw on the Capitol on January 6th was like an attempted Day of the Rope. Now, what we see here, and there's lots of conversations to be had about this. But again, over the years, the attempts by the FBI, national security agencies, intelligence agencies to address right-wing extremism, they have been quelled, they have been quashed, they have been stomped on by the Republican Party, by the right-wing party in our country. So we very much, this problem has exacerbated and has become so far out of control, not just because Trump, not just because this, wacky cult of personality character came to, stoke the flames of this, but because it has been actively ignored and research into it and surveillance has been underfunded specifically by the right-wing party. Okay. That needs to be understood. But now, not only that, but this is the thing, the Republican Party has played with this part of its base for a long time. And, I'm reading the book Nixonland right now by Ron Perlstein. And before QAnon, there was the John Birch Society. And the John Birch Society is where a lot of these like crazy right-wing conspiracy theories, communists behind every, under every bed in America. And, there's all, it's the things about Jewish people in the media and Hollywood and communism. A lot of that comes from John Birch Society rhetoric and conspiracy theory. And Nixon famously, in the run-up to the 68 election, the one he won, kind of played friendly with the John Birch Society and said that they can be, brought into our tent. They can be controlled, right? Well, now guess what? They've gone even crazier than that, and now they're in the halls of Congress. Here we see Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was voted out of her committee assignments by the House of Representatives. She's the House representative from Georgia. She's now been voted out of her committee assignments. One was the Education Committee after she heckled David Hogg, a school shooting survivor. She believes all other kinds of crazy conspiracy theories and wacky ideas, dangerous stuff. But what's really interesting to me is that she has lost these committee assignments, and now she says she's been freed to push the GOP further to the right. So really quick, there have already been very disingenuous, disgusting attempts by people in what we might call mainstream, whatever, corporate news, that have tried to make a comparison between the QAnon caucus, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Louis Gohmert, Matt Gaetz, these clowns, and trying to liken them to the squad. Okay. What does it mean for the squad to pull the Democratic Party to the left? Well, we've seen some of it. It means there's going to be a $15 minimum wage across the United States in a few years. It means that they'd like to expand social universal programs like Medicare for all, maybe address the climate crisis like the Green New Deal. But what does pulling the Republican Party to the right mean for representatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene? Well, it means platforming QAnon. Like, she literally is in the on the floor of the House talking about QAnon.
Cronuts,
oh, geez, that's an ad. Ugh. Ads everywhere, guys. So I'm going to let that do that, but this is really interesting. Here's the quote from Marjorie Taylor Greene. "Going forward, I am freed," she said. "I have a lot of free time on my hands," because she's been stripped off of these committees, "which means I can talk to a whole lot more people all over this country and make connections and build a huge amount of support that I've already got started with." Oh boy. So let's let this ad finish out. But she says some stuff from the floor of the House that is really something else. Let's see.
A harasser in politics. For Congress positions, I never ever considered to run for Congress or even get involved in politics. As a matter of fact, I wasn't a political person until I found a candidate that I really liked, and his name is Donald J. Trump when he ran for president.
Really quick, did you hear that? She wasn't really into politics until she found Donald John Trump, right? This is what it means to be the new right, the alt-right maybe, right? That wasn't into politics, doesn't know anything about it. She had to affirm before she got stripped from these committees because she expressed doubt about 9/11 that it even happened. She had to affirm, yes, I believe 9/11 in fact happened. That's the bar that the Republican Party has set for itself now. Hey, well, listen, she believes 9/11 happened, y'all. So, what's the problem? We need to come together, unity, bipartisanship, right? Guys, one thing that kind of surprised me is in the House vote to remove her, there were 11 Republicans that voted to remove her. Well, I was surprised. Didn't think there would be that many. But, the bar has never been set lower for the Republican Party. Let's hear a little more from... listen, she's going to mention QAnon from the House floor, okay? She's wearing a face mask that says free speech. She already wore another one that said canceled. She's in the People's House, one of the highest places of power in the United States, or platforms really for people to hear you. It's arguable how much power she has as one representative, but listen to this.
Just watching CNN or Fox News, I may not find the truth. And so what I did is I started looking up things on the internet, asking questions like most people do every day. Use Google. And I stumbled across something, and this was at the end of 2017, called QAnon.
Oh,
well,
QAnon.
These posts were mainly about this Russian collusion information. A lot of it was some of what I would see on the news at night, and I got very interested in it. So I posted about it on Facebook. I read about it. I talked about it. The problem with that is, though, is I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them.
Guys, the comment section on Facebook is in the House of Representatives. If you've never watched like a full House committee hearing, when you will have all the members of a committee get to ask questions of a witness, if you've never done that, you don't know how bad it has already been for the Republican Party. Because I don't want to be rude about this, or you're some coastal elitist. Hey, I'm come from a blue collar agricultural town, but are some of these some Republicans in the House who they are backwater candidates, and it shows. And the Russia stuff was good examples of that. She's a good example of that. I mean, the district she comes from is like, I don't know, plus 14, 15 Republican. It's or 20 or something points. It's quite red. So the idea that she's just going to be primaried out and it's just going to fix itself, I don't know about that. So think of the craziest, wackiest stuff you've ever seen in the comments on Facebook at your local news. That's now in the House of Representatives. On the left, on the other hand, for the new left members, freshman Congress people, we have working class, women of color, Muslim, Black Americans. We have school teachers, single mom Cori Bush, who's living in her car, got COVID on the campaign trail, who are arguing for humanism and social programs, universal programs that benefit all of us. So if you hear anybody make a false equivalence between these two groups, it's insane. It's insane. And it's what the right's going to do. It's why they called Antifa a terrorist organization. It's why they call Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization. It's because they've known very well what they have brewing on their side, and we all saw the results of it on January 6th. And, it's deflection, it's projection, it's all those things. Oh man, we got some good comments here, guys. I'm going to go through your comments. Her speech was god awful. H-word. Jay, there's QAnoners all over state governments too. Yeah, dude, they're everywhere. They're in like city councils. There's one in Arizona or New Mexico that I read about that, like the mayor and a city council member have basically jacked this like city council with QAnon stuff. Tribunus Plebis says, just asking questions makes me want to punch people. Yeah, I'm just asking questions about where the satanic pedophile rings are. Just crazy. I'm worried that some just talking about this stuff is going to get me yanked from YouTube. But Jay Coleman, I found it on the internet in the troll font. Thank you for reminding me that's what that's called. H-word. Well, if by the lizard people we mean the donor owner elite class, she's not wrong. She just isn't identifying who the real lizard people are. Yeah, I mean, but this is the thing. And this is why these people are not allies for the left. This is why the far right are not allies for the left. Their economic ideology is laissez-faire capitalism. And it's naturalizing the idea that rich people deserve to be rich, right? That they just think it's this law of the jungle, social Darwinism. Poor people are poor because they don't work hard enough, because they're not successful, or spending all their money on basketball shoes or whatever racist tropes they might employ while they do that. Okay, so this hatred of the elites. I mean, it's tied to a lot of other more nefarious stuff, and people keep using the term globalist, but the only rich people they ever want to talk about are, the Rothschilds, as she said, ran a space laser, or George Soros. They only seem to single out, Jewish people. The other thing, oh man, okay. There was another story I saw that tripped me out. Before the attack on January 6th, as at a lot of Trump rallies, they posted or they played a video for everybody. Famously at like one of the Georgia rallies, they just played Newsmax, like a whole segment from Newsmax. But in this case, they played this little short, and this historian who I follow on Twitter, his name is Jason Stanley. Check him out. He posted this story in Just Security, which is like a nonprofit on national security. And look at this. Movie at the Ellipse, a study in fascist propaganda. So I'm going to have to like mute the video. Like there's going to be no talking during the parts I'm going to mute because it has like copywritten music. But check this out. This is really kind of creepy, guys. So strap in. This was played to rile up the insurrectionists, the MAGA mob. Keep that in mind.
What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people.
Look, guys, the Capitol, what they're about to attack, what do they cut to? Hollywood. Obvious much? Obvious much? Jesus. The UN, globalists, Joe Biden.
For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the
Chuck
rewards
Schumer. Chuck Schumer, a Jewish member of Congress.
Government, while the people
There's Nancy Pelosi next to
reap the rewards of government.
Jerry Nadler and Chuck Schumer, or sorry, not Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff. They're both Jewish.
While the people have borne the cost.
So yeah, I know you can hear the music. I'm keeping it down. So look at this. We have all this imagery. People struggling in their kitchen, right? Like having trouble. Kids eating at the table.
And right now,
Let's see.
that all changes starting right here and right now.
And then the drop. It's literally like, what is that? It's all for you. Right? I kind of know. They're doing like a slow play of that song. It's really kind of weird. But so they look, the glorious rallies. Look at us. We're so great. Look, a black Trump supporter, a white Trump supporter together. Look, the woman crying. Let's see, what was that guy tearing up? Actually, look, like women crying. Oh my gosh! If you've ever seen Nazi propaganda, guys, they've already hit several of the. So look, like auto plants. Trump, like with rockets. Oh hey, rockets, and fighter jets. Let's see. I can't remember if there's more of a dialogue. Like Joe Biden. Everything empty. Fear. Do you see that? Like, how subliminal are you going to get? Fear. They just put it there. Fear. Gosh. Oh, like there's Black Lives Matter rally. Just really closed. Oh, the Supreme Court. Defund the police. Oh, my God. Everything's empty. Yeah, so this video really is something. And this writer, Stanley, goes through it all. And, he breaks down a lot of this. He goes into, like fascist thought. He quotes you-know-who in that book he wrote when he was in jail. I don't want to say it on my channel in case I get taken down. I hope you understand. And, talks about in Nazi ideology, Jews are represented by an unholy alliance between Jewish capitalists and Jewish communists. Their goal was to destroy national states, replace them by a world government. So again, this is messed up. Like the way that the algorithms work on YouTube. There's a soulless algorithm that is could take me down anytime because I want to talk about the creeping authoritarianism and fascism in our society. But so he talks about the movie, right? The video begins with Trump eyes in the shadow, and its second frame focuses the audience on the Capitol building, America's Reichstag, where the decisions being denounced by the rally's organizers were being made that day. The third frame of the video is the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles. The image immediately directs the attention of an audience attuned to an American fascist ideology to the supposedly elite class who, according to this ideology, control Hollywood. The appearance of the Hollywood sign makes no other sense in the context of a short video about an election. The next two images of the UN General Assembly and the EU Parliament connect supposed Jewish control of Hollywood to the goal of world government. As we have seen, according to this fascist ideology, these people seek to use their control of the press and entertainment industry to destroy individual nations. The beginning of the video focuses our attention on this supposedly globalist, but really, Jewish threat. So, guys, this is serious stuff. The insurrection has been downplayed again and again. We see so many people try to act like, it's not a big deal. We even saw people on the left after AOC opened up about the trauma that she experienced that day, and she spoke with clarity about what happened that day and has called for what's the word I'm looking for? Consequences for what happened. She was attacked, the day or two after. They're trying to call Alexandria Ocasio-Smollett, trying to lie about, where she was at the time or whether or not she was attacked or was in danger. Just filthy, disgusting lies. And the trauma is real for members of the House. And it's funny because I know I'll get some Jimmy Dore stands in my comments when I clip this video, that I just worship politicians or blah, 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 blah. But I'm sorry, I stand with the progressive left members of the squad because my political interests align with them, okay? And I believe they're doing good things for the country. They're furthering a narrative that left policies are possible in the United States, and they're helping to grow our movement, and of course the people power in the street is more vital and important. But do we not want people in places of power? That's just the way I've been thinking about it lately. Is they are our allies. They need support, and when they deserve criticism when they deserve it. But if you're just going to endlessly attack them, what other reason for it? I did a video about people supposedly on the left that were saying that AOC wasn't really in danger, didn't really didn't get a bruise on her body. That's what Glenn Greenwald said. And I just find that stuff really calloused, insensitive, but also just I don't get the need to downplay what we're dealing with from the far right. And the far right is now bigger arguably than it's ever been, because they had this cult of personality to organize around. Listen, this is from the testimony. This is from the during the session in the House where they voted out Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is Rashida Tlaib, a Muslim member of the House of Representatives, a member of the Squad, progressive left Democrat, who talked about the trauma that she's faced, not just in the attack, but since she was elected.
And move on.
As many of my colleagues know, my closest colleagues know, on my very first day of orientation, I got my first death threat. It was a serious one. They took me aside. The FBI had to go to the gentleman's home. I didn't even get sworn in yet, and someone wanted me dead for just existing. More came later. Each one paralyzed me each time. So what happened on January 6th, all I could do was thank Allah that I wasn't here. I felt overwhelming relief. And so I asked my colleagues to please try not to dehumanize what's happening. This is real. And many of our residents from the shootings in Charlottesville to the massacre at the synagogue, all of it is led by hate rhetoric like this. And so I urge my colleagues to please take what happened on January 6th seriously. It will lead to more death, and we can do better. We must do better. Thank you.
Wow. So that really is something, people who are trying to downplay the threat of fascism or just the growing authoritarianism just haven't been paying attention. I suffered a professional price for voicing early on as a journalist the concerning things about Trump and his rhetoric and his presidency. Some of it was a little bit about self-preservation, if I'm honest, because he attacked us, he attacked the press. But that's one of the first things that authoritarians do. And just after Trump was inaugurated, Richard Spencer, the white nationalist neo-Nazi, held an event where a bunch of alt-right goons were throwing up Nazi salutes. And he openly said, he said this was a victory for them. And he used the German word for the lying media, right? So this is a playbook. Trump, and there were so many people who just made excuse after excuse day after day as it all escalated, right? Frogs in a pot telling the frogs trying to jump out as the water was reaching a boil, hey, don't worry about it. It's not that bad. It's not that hot, right? The consequence that has been paid, hate crimes rose under Trump. We've seen mass shootings and right-wing mass shootings. They did not slow down under Trump either. We have to be real about this. We have to recognize it. I know that the media has been focusing a lot on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it can be a bit of a distraction from some of the ways in which the Democratic Party are falling short on what they're delivering, like $1,400 checks rather than $2,000 checks. We could be pressuring them more on that, those of us on the progressive left. And I'm here for that. I'm totally here for pushing Biden more and more left. Every little thing he gives us, that we can go, wow, that's not so bad. $15 minimum wage, ending the arms deal with Saudi Arabia, taking back support for the Yemenis, the attack on the Yemenis, right? Every time he does something good like that, let's, jam our foot in the door and try to push it open a little bit farther. But at the same time, I do recognize that for the Democratic Party, there is a political benefit to highlighting the extremism in the Republican Party. For so long, they have just tried to act like everything's okay. We can be buddy with, we can be bipartisan and, rub shoulders with Republicans, even though Republicans have had no interest in doing that for the Democratic Party. They've only wanted to obstruct every step of the way for, a generation now.